Hello everyone, it's Christine from Christine's Stamping Spot. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Alberta, Canada. Thank you for joining me today on my Mystery Monday video. I wasn't here last week as it was Canadian Thanksgiving. So I was doing some cooking and spending some family time last weekend. So I hope any of my Canadian friends tuning in also had a wonderful long weekend last weekend, wherever you are. So thank you for tuning in. So today we're going to take a look at the Changing Leaves bundle. Now this is actually an online exclusive, and I have to say it's been very, very popular. It took me a while to get this bundle because it was so popular and it kept coming back in stock. So I believe it is back in stock now. So part of the bundle is this stamp set, which has some really great images, and the dies, which are here. So you have this really, really big one, which we're actually going to use. And it also, as part of the bundle, comes with the Changing Leaves Hybrid Embossing folder. So this is really exciting because this is a great embossing folder, and it leaves these leaf images. Oh, they're just so pretty. And so this is what it looks like. It's a big 6x6. And it is a 3D folder, so you would run that through with your plate in your die cutting machine. So I'll show you what this is going to look like when we use this later. So the card we are going to make is this one. This was inspired by Claire Daly. She used a couple of different colors, but the outline is very similar, but I added a few different products to it. So we are going to do this paper distress. I think that's what it's called, that technique. I've done it before, but it works so great with this particular set of dies and embossing folder. So we're gonna play with that technique again today. And let's get started, and I'll show you what we're gonna do. It's got a couple of little steps before we actually get to assembling all of our pieces. So the first thing we're gonna do is that technique. So I've just pulled out a piece of very vanilla cardstock, which is what I used for this. Actually, I might have used basic white in my sample, but very vanilla is great too. And then what you're going to do is you're going to select about 3 colors of ink that you like. So for fall or whatever, if you were going to do flowers or different things, you can decide what 3 sort of colors you like. So for this one, I am going to use Copper Clay, Old Olive, and Blackberry Bliss. So you're going to get your ink pads and a blending brush, one for each color, and then we're going to color in this piece of paper. So I'm going to start with the Copper Clay. So I'm just going to ink this up and then just randomly color in your paper, okay? Now, it doesn't really matter if there's dark blotches on it or, you know, it's just random, okay? And then I'm going to go in with, let's see, maybe I'll go in with our Blackberry Bliss. And I mean, for fall, you could use like pumpkin pies, crushed curries, cherry cobblers. You could do whatever you wanted for the leaves. I know parts of our country have different colors in the fall, like probably in the US as well. I know down east the maples are just beautiful, lots of red. We've got more in Alberta, the yellows and the greens. We do have some maples. We see more and more of them popping up. But typically a lot of the yellows and the oranges and the greens. We have a lot of poplar trees, birch trees, those sorts of trees. Okay, then I'm going to take the Old Olive. And again, you're just going to randomly apply it wherever you want. Now, it's not going to look like a whole lot right now, kind of a bit of a mess, but like I say, with color, just experiment with whatever you like. And we are going to cut our leaves out of this when it's all done. Okay. Okay, so quite a bit of green going on in here. This is the olive. And if you like, you can always go back and add a little bit more of one of the colors that you like. So let's add a little bit more blackberry here. If you wanted, you could also add like a fourth color, I suppose. You know, if you wanted to add a little bit of cherry cobbler or something like that, or a few oranges, whatever your heart desires. Okay, I think I'll leave it like that. Now you are going to get a little bit messy, so just a heads up. So I'm just going to wipe this down. Glass mat, perfect, easy cleanup. And this glass mat is, I believe, for sale now as well, if you're interested. I believe it's also in the online exclusives, if they have any left. Really great work surface and really good for watercoloring or sponging or any of those things. Okay, so we're going to bring this back. Now, on my sample, what I did was I just let this dry for just a teeny bit. Didn't take very long. And then I cut out my leaves just as this paper is. Now, what I've done in the past, and what I'll show you as an alternative too, is you can sprinkle a little bit of water on here to get a little bit of a different look. So you would take your water painter, fill it with water, and I just use my bone folder, but you could use scissors or a ruler, whatever you have. And you're just going to gently squeeze and tap. Try not to give yourself a shower in the process. And you're just going to randomly sprinkle around. And this is what is sort of the distress portion of this technique. So I don't know if you can see what's happening. See all these little bubbles of water? They're just sort of spreading the color. So you can add as little or as much as you like. I would try to avoid like tipping it, because if you have sort of a pool of water anywhere, it'll just cause it to drip. Whereas you kind of want these little spatters, which seem to be growing on this paper. So if you do this part on the technique, definitely let this dry before you run it through the die cutting machine. You could take a heat tool as well to it, which maybe I will do. Let me just rub off any excess water here. Grab my heat tool maybe. And we'll just speed up the process. I did do a couple ahead of time, which we could have used as well. But I'll show you how that embossing folder works too. So just give me 1 second to get my heat tool. Whoops. Okay. So plug this in, and we're just going to give it a little bit of heat to dry that a bit, just so it cuts better in the die cutting machine. Okay, I'm going to make a little bit of noise. Okay, I think that feels pretty good. So because our embossing folders is 6 by 6, I'm just going to trim this to 6 inches. Okay, and then we can run it through that embossing folder. So you're going to grab the embossing folder. Now there's 2 ways with a hybrid. You can either straight emboss, so you would just put your paper in, run it through the die cut machine. But the term emboss comes from, or what it means for us is we're going to cut and emboss at the same time. Okay, so we're going to use this large leaf die. So we're going to get like 3 leaves out of it, and you're going to line it up in your folder right over those corresponding images. Now it does sort of fall into place a little bit. It kind of has a teeny weeny groove in there like so. Try not to move it too much. Okay, it's very slight, but as long as it's over those images here. I'm just gonna get my light fixed here so I got this lined up properly. Okay, so then I'm going to put my paper this way, close the folder. Oh, I haven't lined up there. Hang on, let me try this again. Some of the folders have a little bit of a bigger groove to them that you can actually sort of hear it fall into place. This one you might have to just sort of be careful and line it up a little bit better. Okay, so let's do that. There we go. And we're going to run this through the die cut machine. So I apologize for any shaking. Alrighty. Is our folder. So we're going to open it up, take off our die, and these are just going to pop out. Okay, so these are the leaves. Now, can you see on these, there's a little bit of a raised sort of texture to them. It's a little hard to see on the dark, but there is a little bit of a raised texture from the embossing. You can see on here maybe a little bit better. See how that's a little bit raised? And because of that water, we've got this really neat sort of look to our leaves. Like this one is really pretty with the drops on there. And you can see a little bit of the raised embossed image there. So very, very cool. And here you've got some other on the, raised images from the rest. So if you wanted to keep some of those, you could, or cut them out, put them on another project. Like here's one right there. So really, really fun technique. Okay, so we have those pieces done. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to grab my base. So I used a Very Vanilla as the base. Okay. And then we're going to add a piece of Blackberry Bliss on top. Okay, so we're incorporating one of those ink colors that we used in our sponging. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to put on another piece of Very Vanilla, but I want to add a little bit of a background. I find this a little bit plain. So there's two things I could do. I could run it through the embossing folder again, just simply emboss it, which would be pretty cool. Or I could stamp on it too. So I don't know if you can see here. I lightly stamped the largest stamped image on the background, and I stamped that in basic beige. Okay, I inked it up, stamped off, and then stamped on because I just wanted a very, very subtle background. But I think maybe for this one I'm going to use that embossing folder, and maybe you can see that image a little bit better. So let's do that. Okay, no more shaking. I really should get a separate table for this, maybe. Okay. So when I bring it out, this is what that looks like. Can you see that now a little bit better? You've got the raised leaves, and it has all this beautiful texture in all of those leaves from that embossing folder. And it's not all the same. Like every leaf has a little bit something different. I love this. So fun. Okay, so let's put this on. And we will put this on here, and then we are going to add our leaves. Okay, so I'm gonna pop them up with some dimensionals. All right, so these are the 3. Oh, I've got an extra one here. No, these are the 3. They just feel really thick. Oh, this one was a little bit wet still, so it's a little bit floppy. So that's the thing, you have to let it really dry before you cut that through the embossing folder, because the wetness or the dampness of the paper could break down those fibers and cause these leaves. See how it's kind of flopping? But we're gonna try to use this anyway. Okay, so I'm gonna flip it around, and I'm just gonna add a dimensional on these leaves. Because I had done another one before that I was maybe just going to use, and see, this one dried on its own, and look at how firm that is. Okay, so that dampness, yeah, paper, you know, give it a good bit of time to dry, so those fibers just stay nice and intact there. But this will be okay. We'll just be really careful with it, and put this down. Hopefully the other ones are okay too. So you can place this wherever you like. I'm gonna put it at a bit of an angle, I think, maybe towards the top, like so. And just give that a little press, okay? And then I'm only gonna use one of these. So on my sample, I used this one, so maybe now I'll use this one. And I also had an extra leaf that I cut out of the dies. These are the dies in there as well. Excuse me. And this is cut out of Blackberry Bliss. So let me add this first. We're gonna just sort of layer these and mix and match them a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to put this on with a glue dot, and we'll just try to kind of line up the stems a teeny bit. Okay, and if you want to tack some of this down with some adhesive or liquid glue, you could do that just so they don't curl up too much. Okay, and then I think we can add this one here. So let's put that on a glue dot as well. Try not to stick to your fingers, which happens to me a lot. Has that happened to you? I don't know. These glue dots end up all over the place sometimes. Sort of like all those little backers from our dimensionals, right? Find them all over the floor. Okay, so we'll just layer that there. Oh, I should pop, no, what am I doing? I was gonna pop this up with some dimensionals. Oh my gosh. Sorry about that, guys. I just got distracted for a minute there. I might need a couple of mini on this one. Let me see. So, are all of you getting ready for Halloween? Big weekend coming up. I hope it's not going to be too cold here for our trick-or-treaters. We don't usually get a ton at our house anymore, but there are a few more kids moving in, so we'll see. We have had snow and very cold temperatures on Halloween, so I hope that's not the case this year. Okay, you could leave it like that, but another thing I wanted to add is these. These are the woven golden leaves. Now I put them in a different package because I was having trouble getting them all back in the original packaging, go figure. There are 75 pieces in here, and there are 2 different sizes. These are little leaves. Let me see if I can find where I have them. Here they are. I pulled a couple out, so if you can see these, they're sheer. Now, these are from the mini catalog, And in the catalog, they are part of the Autumn Splendor suite, I believe. Now, in the catalog, it says they're self-adhesive, but that's not quite right. They are not self-adhesive, so I just use a glue dot to adhere these. And there are two different sizes, so you can see a little bit of a pattern. They're just cut from nylon, and they're gold, is what the actual color, official color is. So I'm gonna just add a couple of these. Now they are very sheer and hard to see, but I am just going to randomly put a couple in here. So let's see, I think one glue dot is enough, but if you wanted to add two, you could. You know, some of us like to just make sure that it's nice and strong, and then you can add these wherever. So I think I am going to put this large one, do I want it here? Maybe I'll put it here. So you might have to lift up your leaves. Oh, see, now I ripped it off because of those fibers, but I will just put another dimensional and tack that down. Yeah, paper, hey, can be very, very delicate. So let's just try to, oh, what's this way? Let's just try to line this up a little bit. Hopefully nobody will really see too badly. It's okay. All right. Oh, you know what? I have that other old dimensional down here. Let's just peel that off. There we go. And I might have to tack that down with another glue dot or something. Oh, there's always something unexpected in our videos, isn't there? How fun. But that's okay. Just shows all of us have little issues sometimes, but we can get, you know, use some creative license and try to fix these, so maybe nobody would know. Oh, did I get, no, see, it's on my finger. Oh, let's try to get that off this time. Okay. Oh my gosh. Maybe I should just put it down here, just there. So just sort of tuck it down there. That looks okay. Not too bad. Okay, and then the two small ones. Now, if you wanted, I wonder, you could probably fold them in half to give them a little bit of extra something. And stick on our glue dots. And maybe we'll put one, we'll tuck it under here, under these two. Hopefully they won't rip. They're so sheer, right? Like they're almost hard to see in this light, but they are really pretty, really delicate looking. All right, and this one, I think we'll just stick in the bottom corner, maybe down here. Try to tuck it underneath a little bit. Okay, that's not quite how I wanted it. Let's try to, there, I wanted a little more down. That's not too bad. There. So then all we would really need is a greeting, but because I have embossed this one, I might have to add that later, because on my sample, I just stamped that background, right? So I was able to just stamp a thank you there. So maybe I'll just leave this one blank, and I can decide for what occasion I want to use this later. I mean, you can just leave it blank as well, right? That's totally fine. Now, one thing I did want to mention is if once you've cut out these leaves, and let me show you an example. So let's say I've cut this out and I'm thinking, oh, it's not quite the colors I wanted. you can always just sponge some extra around the edges. So for example, this one, I just inked up my Blackberry Bliss. And I'm just gonna add a little more. You could use a sponge dauber too, but this was already out. Just sponge a little bit of color, extra color around those edges or on the top. And that might, you know, give them a little bit more of a, you know, they might sort of pop a little bit more, I guess, is what I'm maybe trying to say. So just, you know, if you wanted green or something, but because we've used the Blackberry Bliss, I'm just gonna sponge a little bit around and on top. You don't have to do all of them, but you know, if you want to just add a little something, you could do that. And it could also change the look of your card a little bit. So see these two now. This is how it probably came out, but if I were to put this on top, this would have a little bit more dimension around the outside and it might pop a little bit more because you never really know where that ink is going to show up on the die, depending how the sponging went and the way the die sits in the folder. So if you want to add a little bit of dimensions or, another pop of color, just feel free to sponge around the outside after it's cut and it might give you a little bit of a different look too. All right, friends, that is our project, kind of a fall project today, which initially I thought I could, maybe sneak in a video last week, but that's okay. We've done this one now this week. I hope you'll try it. Try it with some different colors and let me know what you think or how it's turned out. But I think it's a really cool technique for leaves and flowers and backgrounds and things. So have fun with that, and we will see you next week. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now.